I say that I'm from Delaware because that's where I graduated high school, but I was born in Washington state. Both of my parents served in the US military, and so I spent a majority of my childhood traveling all over. Um, I've lived internationally in Germany for the first 5 years of my life. And then after that, we came back to the States, and I've lived all over this beautiful country. I'm a nomad. I'm really from nowhere. Yeah, so the term essential, when it first hit mainstream, it really aggravated me because when I worked for the federal government, this term came about when there would be inclement weather. Essential staff are the only ones required to be in the building, and social workers were part of that department's essential work staff. And so it meant something different at the time. It was like, oh, we're needed, we're valued. That's how I thought about it. In regards to the pandemic, I noticed this shift where it was, you are more important than the others. And that's what I didn't like. There are some of us exposing ourselves to harm every single day, and yet it's like, well, you're dispensable because there are more people out there. And so the word essential really got tarnished from the pandemic. And I wanted to take that term back and say, well, what does essential mean to me? And how am I redefining what essential means? And so in my career, how I see essential is that I'm valuing myself and valuing the work that I do. Being glued to a screen 12 hours a day is not being kind to myself. It's not treating myself as if I'm essential, that I'm important. As far as my other roles that I have, my family and friends, I'm essential to them because they love me, and they're essential to me because I love them. Yeah. Um, my biggest fear and anxiety right now is living as a person of color, period. Um, I really enjoy running. It's one of my passions. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my fiance was like, "Hey, let's start running together." And he hates running. So I'm like, oh, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go running in the morning early." And then a couple days later, the news hit of Ahmaud Arbery being murdered on his run. And so it's like anytime something happens to a black person, I think to myself, well, okay, that's ruined. We can't do that anymore. Um, and that made me fucking angry because, like, that's where I feel the most free. And the fact that I don't feel safe leaving my house to do something I just love so much, it sucks because I can't stop but think, who's looking at me as a threat? Or, if I go around this corner, is someone going to shoot me because I left my neighborhood? And then when I learned more details about Breonna Taylor, I thought to myself, oh, I have a security system. Like, I'll be safe. That's not true. So now I can't even be in my house. Um, so I try not to push these feelings away because that's not productive. It's not productive to say, oh, you shouldn't feel those things, or, oh, don't worry. That helps no one. So when these feelings and fears and worries come up, I let myself go with them. But at the same time, there's nothing I can do to prevent what is presumably looming around the corner. I can't prevent someone from looking at me and saying, you're uneducated. You're a threat to me, so I'm just going to disqualify you from all of the things that every human being deserves to have. Every human being deserves to feel safe. Every human being deserves to be able to exist without being afraid of being murdered. One of the things that I hope we learn is that we don't lose all of the lessons we're currently garnering right now. That's my biggest fear, is that people are going to slowly forget. Year after year, it seems like people are really, meaning what they say. They're looking out for their neighbors. They're caring about one another. But the trend that I'm noticing, and it happened again this year, where a lot of people said, well, there's something worse. And I don't think there's anything worse than forgetting what happened. And I think Black people in this country understand that very clearly. Some people want to forget that slavery happened. People want to forget that the civil rights movement wasn't that long ago. People want to forget all of these things that have impacted very specific groups of people and continue to unfold and just say, well, that's not a factor anymore. And even though time moves forward, people are still acting as if, oh, we're longing for better days. And then it's like, well, you're holding on to the toxic things that you want to keep around. It's like, if it was a thing of the past and it wasn't impacting us today, will we still need to fight as hard as we do to get the things that human beings deserve? We shouldn't be talking about people being held in bondage. Still, that's still happening. And people are just like, oh, it's just immigrants being held in cages. Oh, well, there's no slavery anymore. Well, human trafficking is still a thing. People like to turn a blind eye because it feels better to them. I want people to know that I am not a trend. I can't change the way that I look. I can't do anything about how I exist in the world, and I don't want to. And yeah, it's really, really difficult to consider that people just want it to go away. I feel bad for those who are blissfully ignorant, because there's so much that they're missing out on. The term woke has been manifested into this badge of honor, and yet so many people just need to take it off. They're not woke. They keep hitting snooze. And you can't go through life half asleep. It's just not going to work. After the George Floyd murder was largely publicized, there was an onslaught of text messages that I received from white people that had my personal cell phone, some of which I hadn't talked to in a very long time. I was just confused. Like, did someone send them a memo saying, text your Black friend that you hadn't talked to in a while? I had asked a couple of my other POCs and I was like, are you also experiencing this? And they said, yeah. So I coined it the White Apology Tour because, why is this happening? And then my responses were appreciative, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to let you off the hook. If you want to have an uncomfortable conversation, we'll have it, And some of them, most of them, were filled with apologies. And I said, thank you. I appreciate your apology. However, what you can do is, if you have children, raise them to not hate people that look like me. And if you don't, talk to your family and friends about not hating people that look like me. It's a good start. And one of them, got defensive. And it's like, well, you were the one that texted me, so... Is this really... I just found it really comical. And then exhausting, all at the same time. I just remember a couple of weeks in a row just crying every day. I don't think people recognize that, yeah, you might feel better after sending me an apology, but you don't know, the aftermath. There's only so much one person can take before, the tears just start to fall. And it's not because I'm sad. I'm just tired. I'm just really, really tired. It's as if our pain is being used to heal others. And that doesn't feel good at all. Because who's going to help me heal? You know? Your fragility and guilt is not going to help me heal. Your trending hashtags are not going to help me heal. Your protesting signs are not going to help me heal. I need something different. And I don't know what that is. And that's the thing that hurts the most. And I I think back to my grandparents and my great grandparents and my mother and father, and I'm just like, how did you do it? You know, how did you get up every single day and just keep doing it over and over again and not have it hard in your heart, you know? So, yeah, it's really, really hard when people just use your pain to heal and you're just stuck with the bill. It's like, yep, here's your pain bill. Good luck. I feel better. It's like, okay, I guess. I didn't sign up for this. That's the beauty of white supremacy. You don't have to sign up for any of this shit. You just get what you get. The other challenging thing about this time is being partnered with someone who doesn't look like me. So, my fiance identifies as white. He is a male and he's very kind and compassionate, and I love him dearly, and my family does too. When you hear people talk rhetoric about how toxic and terrible white men are, it's hard not to think, ooh, is he that way? No, no, he's not. Is he? You know? And then I end up getting myself in a tailspin sometimes where I'm like, prove it. And that's not healthy. He goes there with me because he understands the struggle and the battle that I'm going through. But at the same time, I feel like I have to report back because people are like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, he's still a decent human being. He hasn't flipped on me. But it's mental gymnastics. It's the things that plant inside your mind. And if you let yourself go really deeply there, it'll destroy you completely. But because of the relationship that we have, I can have these conversations with him. And we have our whole entire relationship where it's not a trend. This is how we started our relationship, talking about things that matter to both of us: social justice, equality, inclusion. And he learns things from me, I learn things from him. And it doesn't feel like this effort of teaching. It truly is like growing together in a partnership. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there were these groups out there that specifically would target interracial couples and go to their weddings, their baby showers, their job, and just show up and be hateful. And I'm like, this is just going above and beyond the standard of like what I define as hateful. Now I'm like, what if I'm on that website? What if me and my fiance are on that website and they're trolling me? And it's just, ugh, such bullshit that I shouldn't have to deal with. Now I have to think 10 steps ahead of someone who could possibly be in a space to hate me just because of the color of my skin. That's exhausting. Maybe I'll just stay inside. Maybe I won't go to that neighborhood, right? Because they'll think I don't belong. I remember a time where I didn't have to go through those mental gymnastics. And that's also the shitty part about it. I didn't think this much about how I navigated the world. Maybe that was me being asleep. And I can't undo that. The only thing I can do is say, well, if it's going to happen, at least the people you leave behind can say that you were a decent human being. I mean, what else is there? It's that. Like, every time I see Breonna Taylor's face, I think to myself, well, what if that was my face? What if that was my face?
Bree. Oh my
You said 26. Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know. Hell. Oh my God. Yes. Hell.
What's your name, sir?